is 7 News at 6 with Mark Ferguson.
Good evening. In what's seen as a fatal blow to Australia's car industry, Holden has announced its factories will close by the end of 2017. The decision from Detroit means nearly 3,000 Australian...
They all dreaded. After 65 years of car making in Australia, this is the end of the road. Holden is letting go.
I think it was inevitable, but it's still hard to take once you hear it, you know.
Workers in Melbourne were told at the same time.
It's a great iconic company. It's a shame what's happening.
Some were philosophical.
All good things come to an end, I guess.
The end will come in 2017. Holden's managing director, Mike Devereaux, said the decision was made at General Motors' US headquarters and that he only learned late yesterday.
As painful as it is to say, building cars in this country is just not sustainable.
2,900 jobs will go over the next 4 years, 1,600 in Adelaide, 1,300 in Melbourne. Victim, Holden says, of a high dollar, high production costs and a limited domestic market.
In many ways, Australia's automotive industry is up against a perfect storm of negative influences.
An industry that is dying. Mitsubishi pulled out in 2008, Ford will leave in 2016, Holden in 2017. And then there was one, Toyota.
This year is actually our 50th year of manufacturing cars, starting on this site back in 1963. So we're determined to stay here for the long haul.
Holden has received $1.8 billion in taxpayer subsidies over the past decade. It didn't blame either side of politics for its decision today, but that didn't stop them blaming each other. The political collision started yesterday when the Treasurer demanded Holden announce its intentions.
Either you're here or you're not.
Leading to this today.
Treasurer Hockey dared Holden to withdraw from Australia, and he got his way.
You know, there wasn't that outrage around when under Labor Mitsubishi left and Ford left.
For Holden workers, today was inevitable, but that doesn't make it any easier.
In some ways, is it a relief?
No, it's never a relief to lose your job, is it?
And political editor Mark Riley joins us now. Mark, is the Abbott government to blame for driving Holden away?
Partially, Mark, but it's unfair to lay all the blame at the Abbott government's feet. Labor was in for 6 years and it obviously didn't do enough to keep Holden here either. But I think undeniably, the two big factors in today's decision were the high Australian dollar, which made it very difficult for Holden Australia to compete internationally. And the second thing is Holden didn't sell enough cars. It wasn't making enough cars that were acceptable to the market. People weren't buying them. That's the story, Mark.
Mark Riley in Canberra, thank you. The demise of GMH will be the end of an automotive badge that's as Australian as football, meat pies, kangaroos and, well, Holden cars. They've been made since 1948. At one stage, 1 in 5 cars on Australian roads was a Holden.
Ride the luxury equipment he chose.
The cars have changed.
Technology, luxury.
But for 65 years, one thing stayed the same.
New Holden Commodore.
They were built here.
And in 1948, Prime Minister Chifley launched Australia's own car, Holden.
A former Adelaide saddlery merged with American General Motors quickly dominated the post-war market.
Goes west, Holden Monaro quickly takes the lead.
There was the rivalry on the racetracks.
Go the mighty V8 Commodores!
And between families.
There's been a sort of cultural divide. You were either a Holden man or a Ford man.
Other countries loved them too, with exports across Asia and the Commonwealth. The cars would star on the big screen.
I am the Night Rider.
And the small.
The Kingswood? You're not taking the Kingswood.
In the 1960s, Holden had 19,000 workers and 10 plants.
It's the kind of car that could tempt anyone.
By the mid-80s, Holden's dominance was waning. It lost most of its crucial export market. Despite billions of dollars in taxpayer help, Detroit's decided it's the end of the road. Devotees are devastated.
I think it's because we're brought up on them. And when they're in the blood, they're in the blood.
Holden once said it made
in Australia a new status symbol among the nations of the world.
A status this symbol will no longer carry. Paul Caddick, 7 News.
Sacked NRL